everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make 2 cards using stamps and thin cuts from Slimline Celebration. This is the September special and it's running through the end of October while supplies last. So I'm going to use Thoughtful Critters. It's these woodland critters, and then there are sentiments that can go inside your cards. And this one is called Slimline Sentiments. And then I'm also going to use the Circle Cluster Thin Cuts. So I'm using papers from As You Grow and Wood Grain. These are from the core catalog. And then a variety of cardstock. So let's get started. I'm going to cut my wood grain paper and leave enough room so that I can do some stamping on it also. So I want to cut it so that it'll fit through my Big Shot. And I can cut that circle cluster design, but then I also want to stamp on it. And then I'm cutting some rosemary. I'm going to stamp on that as well. Okay, so we'll start with the wood grain, and I'm going to stamp this squirrel on it. And I'm going to use the texture and color and design of the paper to create the fur on my squirrel. So I won't have to do a ton of coloring on this one, okay? And then I'm just kind of measuring and figuring out how much space I'm going to need for my thin cut, all right? Then I'm going to bring in some shortbread, and I'm going to stamp in mocha. I'm going to stamp this hedgehog. And same thing, because of the colored cardstock, I won't have to do a ton of coloring with the tri-blend markers. And then I'm going to stamp some leaves. And then later on, I'm going to stamp the tree stump and some acorns. But I'm just cutting off enough so that it's workable with the Big Shot. And then I'm going to stamp in black. I'm going to do the raccoon. That's in black on the light side of rosemary. Okay. I'm going to bring the shortbread back in and stamp those acorns. So I like to stamp everything out and then color and cut it so that I've got all of my elements for my card front to work with. So got those stamped out, and then I'll trim that off for a workable piece. And then I'll continue stamping. So now I'm thinking about it. I want to stamp my little sign on the wood grain paper as well. So I'm making sure I have enough room. I'll stamp that in mocha. And then I have thanks to go on that little sign. And this one, once you cut it out, it has little hands or paws on it so that whichever creature you want to have holding the sign, it makes it look like he's holding a sign. Super cute. And then last are these mushrooms. Okay, so these are the coordinating thin cuts, and off screen I cut everything out, and I also colored it in with the tri-blend markers. So now I have all my elements. So this is a white jelly roll pen, and it comes in a pack of 3 sizes. So you can choose from the 05, 08, or 0.1 on the size of tip that you want to work with. And you do have to kind of color on some scratch paper to get it going, but once you do, the flow is pretty good. And I'm just going to use this to add some detail to my raccoon. So add some white underneath his eyes and then over his eyebrows. And these are opaque pens, so whatever you color on top of it's going to color. And I'll come back and I'll put a little detail on his ears as well. So cute. Okay, so now we have our raccoon, and he's going to be holding the thanks sign. Okay. All right. So this is the circle cluster thin cut, and I'm going to show you how I got color inside of each of those circles. So I'm going to run this through on this other pattern paper. And you're going to keep all of the bits that are inside the circles. Okay, instead of that outline, you want the insides. Okay, so you're going to be paper piecing and putting a puzzle together basically. So keep all those little pop outs, and then those will go inside my little frame. So I'm going to cut this other pattern paper at a slimline card size, which is 3.5 by 8.5, and I'm kind of strategically placing that circle cluster because I want those 3 little mushrooms to show up in that upper circle. Okay, so I'm kind of figuring out where I want it placed and then cutting my pattern paper accordingly. Okay, and then I feel like it needs a little more definition around the edges. So this is what I tried first. And so I brought in some Harbor ink and I'm just spudging around the edges to give the edges a frame and definition. And then you'll see later on, I changed my mind and I decided to go ahead and layer it up with a piece of Harbor cardstock. But I liked that sponging around the edges, so I kept that. Okay, so we can start building the card. I've got a slimline card base here. And I'm just going to lay everything out and start gluing things down. Okay, so I'm just using Aqua Tombow. And then I'll place that down on my card front. Trying to figure out the way that I had planned for it to go. We'll get that down. And then we're just going to put this puzzle together, and all those coordinating pieces, those bits, I'm going to glue inside each of those circles. So I'll just get all those down with Tombow too. So we'll skip ahead in just a second, but I want to show you just the first couple, get them in there. So each of those slide right in. Okay, so now we've got our circles filled in. All right, now I'm just going to lay all my little woodland creatures around on my card front and decide where I want them to go. So little raccoon's going to sit on the tree stump. I'm going to pop everything with thin foam tape. So we're just going to place all these around. They're so cute. And this card typically isn't my style because it is quite busy. So after I finish this card, I'll show you another one where it's a little bit cleaner and not quite as busy in the background. So, but we'll go ahead and build this one and put it together. All right, here we go, our last acorn. Okay, so this is where I decided that it needed a little more definition around the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and mat it with Harbor, and I trimmed it up, the base up just a bit, and sponged the edges. So we'll get that put together, and I think it looks a little bit better. And then for the last step, I'm going to add some shimmer brush on the hedgehog. Just add a little extra definition. There's enough going on this card, so I didn't want to add any sparkle gems or anything like that. So, but I do want a little bling, so I'm going to add some shimmer to the hedgehog and then also to the tops of the acorns, just to give them a little more definition. Okay, so that's my first card. All of these little creatures, they're so cute and they are fun to color in. So. Okay, now I'm going to make another card, and it's basically the same design, but it's a little more of a cleaner background. So I'm going to use Harbor as my base, and then I'll layer that up with rosemary, and this is the light side of rosemary. And I'll go ahead and add my circle cluster thin cut, and this is what I had cut out when I used the insides of those circles. That was the thin cut that I cut out, so I'm using that. And then I cut another circle cluster with sage, and this is the light side of sage, and so that's going to be all of the inside of my circles. Okay, trying to keep kind of basic woodsy colors in my scheme here. So Okay, so now I've colored and stamped, colored and cut out all of my woodland creatures, and I'll start assembling the card. So I decided to stamp the raccoon on the flip side of that wood grain paper, and it's kind of a weathered gray wood grain, and he looks so cute after I got done with the white gel pen on the detail. So, and then I'll finish up by adding some shimmer to my hedgehog and to the acorns. Same basic design. This time the hedgehog is holding the sign instead of the raccoon. Kind of moved the little guys around a little bit. So cute. So that's my finished card. So I appreciate you watching my video today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. All of these supplies are currently available in my online store. I will make a list of everything I used with links in the description below. And thanks for watching.